Everybody, happy, middle of March. I thought I'd film my April TBR. I'm definitely reaching for the goals, this month, the coming month of April. I have 12 books on my TBR. That's right, 12. Um, am I reaching? Possibly. But at the same time, I'm so excited to have these books and be able to read them and bring you along with my journey, because I definitely want to vlog through the whole month of April with my reading journey to show you that I'm willing to read 12 books. So I'm actually going to start telling you the books I'm going to read. Let's see. We're going to start off with, I think, my biggest and longest book for the month. Yes, I do tend to read a lot of young adult books, fantasy mostly. But I do dive into adult fantasy. This time last year, a friend of mine gave me Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Again, I'm probably butchering the last name. I'm sorry. And he's been asking me when am I going to read Wise Man's Fear. Let me tell you something. I plan to do that in April. Wise Man's Fear is my biggest book for the month. It is over 1,000 pages. I think it's over 1,100 pages. Am I nervous about reading this big book? Yes. You think do I think I'm going to finish it in April? I'm hoping so. If I don't, that's fine. I'll carry it over into May. But I do plan to read this and finish this in the month of April. Fingers crossed. But that's my first book of the month. The next book is my classic for the month, or what I think is a classic. I've been reading his books since January. I've had read The Fellowship of the Ring before, and I did a reread of it. But I am making my way through the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I read The Hobbit, and then I read The Fellowship of the Ring, and then I picked up Two Towers in March. So I'm going to actually finish the trilogy in the month of April with The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. I am excited to actually finish reading the trilogy. I have seen the movie plenty of times. I own a copy of the movie. But I've been so happy with reading the book and seeing what the differences is from the book to the movie. So yeah, and I think the covers are beautiful from the paperbacks that they've had. So I'm excited to pick up this book, read it, and have finished reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So the next book I have happens to be the Books with Friends book for the month of April. And there was a Twitter poll to see which book's going to be on for the month. And a lot of people, it was a tie for a while until they finally came up with the book of the month, which I actually went and bought both the two books that they were tied between, because I didn't know which book they were going to choose. And I just wanted to make sure that I would have either of the book, whatever one was chosen. And that book happens to be Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. And I've heard a lot about this from a lot of other booktubers here on BookTube, like Emma Books, to Clockwork Reader, to I think maybe Haley in Wonderland, she's read it, I think so. So I'm excited to read this. I'm excited to pick it up in the month of April. There's a readathon that I do every year called Dewey's 24-hour readathon, and that happens the first week of April. So maybe I'll do a separate TBR to to show the books that are going to be on that TBR, which I'm going to take through my whole month's TBR. But I'm excited to read two these. One of the two Sarah J. Maas books I have on my TBR for the month of April. Ugh. It happens to be A Court of Mist and Fury. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses in March, and I loved it, and I definitely loved the retelling of it, so I'm excited to pick this up. So, yeah, I was definitely excited to see where it takes place, what happened after A Court of Thorns and Roses. So I'm excited to pick this up. It's the second book in the series. So I'm so down to earth to read it. So yeah, I'm excited to pick this up. It is one of the bigger books on my TBR for the month. Not as big as Wise Man's Fear. So yeah, it's one of the bigger books I do have. I seem to be reading a lot of fantasy this month, which is not new. I tend to be more into fantasy. I would, so yeah. On my TBR, it was actually recommended to me a couple of weeks ago. I went to Barnes & Noble before a dinner with friends, and I was looking for books. I was actually looking for the second book in the Grishaverse series, and Barnes & Noble was having a sale, and these two guys were looking at The Wicked King by Hallie Black, and I'm like, that's the sequel, you should look for the first book. They're like, oh good, we're looking for series. And they actually recommended this book, and I've heard a lot of things about it, and it happens to be Three Dark Crowns by Kendra Blake. I have heard a lot about this. I am excited to read it. And again, I think this is a trilogy, and there's possibly going to be a fourth book coming out. So I'm excited to pick this up and read it in April. If you're wondering what I'm doing, my TBR cart is over here, and once I finish talking about a book, I'm putting it back on the TBR shelf cart. So that's what I keep doing. And so the next book happens to be I have two Leigh Bardugo books on this cart for the month of April, and this one is a second book in a trilogy, and that is Seed and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. It's the second book in the Grishaverse trilogy. I found Leigh Bardugo after I read The Six of Crows for the Books with Thumbs book for February. And I love The Six of Crows, but I was confused by it because I had never read the Grishaverse trilogy before. And so I decided to pick up Shadow and Bone, and I read it in March. So I'm excited to pick up the second book in the series, which is Seed and Storm, and I get to read it in the month of April. So, the book I have is actually my other Sarah J. Maas book, which happens to be The Tower of Dawn, which is book 6 in the Throne of Glass series. I am currently 165 pages away from finishing Empire Storms, and I am loving the series. I know everyone has their own differences of the series, so I'm excited to pick up Tower of Dawn and continue it, because I'm getting closer and closer to the end. I do plan to do rereads, because I would definitely reread the series over again, because I loved all the stories and the characters and everything. So I'm excited to pick up Tower of Dawn, which is another thick book. Yeah, it's over 660 bucks. So, yeah. So I'm excited to read it and continue on the series before I read the finale, which is Kingdom of Ash. The next book I have is actually another novella series that I really want to read. It's part of the same world I found and read in 9 months. And the novella happens to be Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, Maureen Johnson, and Robin Wasserman. I read the Bane Chronicles in March, and I loved them. So I'm excited to pick up Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy and read this novella. I'm enjoying the novellas because the novellas come out between her series. So there's another one that comes out in June, which will probably hold me over until November when Chain of Gold comes out. So I'm excited to read that novella. I've listened to 2 of the novellas already, so I'm excited to actually physically read a copy of it. But I'm excited to pick up Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. We kind of get to see Simon, what happened to Simon in City of Heavenly Fire. So I'm excited to see where his story goes from here. So I'm so excited to pick it up and see what happens. The next book I have happens to be another book in a series that I fell in love with this past year, and happens to be book 4, and that is Restore Me by Tahira Mafi. I found the Shadow Me series last year, and I found that I liked it, and it's definitely an interesting story. So I'm wickedly excited to read Restore Me, because I know Defy Me comes out in April. So I'm excited to pick this up, read it, and then be able to read Defy Me. So, and the covers just happen to be beautiful. The next one happens to be purple, so that's fun. Moving to TBR. So, the next book that is on my TBR is a second book in a series that I read. I read the first book in February, and I loved it. It's definitely something I've heard a lot about. Books with Chloe loves the series. So I decided to pick up the first book, which happens to be Strange to Dream by Laini Taylor. And so in the month of April, I'm going to read Muse of Nightmares, which is book 2 in the Strange to Dreamer series. It's the sequel, and so I'm excited to read this and see what happens to all the characters. With how the story ended and the cliffhanger, I can't wait to pick this up and read it. And the cover just happens to be so beautiful. So I'm excited to read this. The next book I'm gonna pick up in the month of April is another Leigh Bardugo book, and that happens to be The Crooked Kingdom, which is the sequel to Six of Crows. And it's the really nice edition where it has the sprayed edges, kind of like I had with my Six of Crows, where it has the black sprayed edges. I'm excited to pick up Crooked Kingdom, definitely with how the Six of Crows has ended. I'm surprised I lasted this long waiting to read this, but I'm someone who likes to stick to a TBR. Every once in a while I'm like, no, I'll just start it. But no, I actually stick to my TBR for the past month. So I am excited to pick up Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. And now that I've read at least one of the books in the Grishaverse, I'll be able to understand the magic system a lot more, which will get me ready for King of Scars, which is another book by Leigh Bardugo. I'm finding a lot of authors I didn't know before when I was a teenager and actually reading young adult books that I'm finding now and that I'm loving. So I'm excited to pick up The Crooked Kingdom. And so my last book of the month happens to be a second book in another series, which is a trilogy. And that happens to, and for the record, I read the first book in the series in one day. I sat down on a couch one day, and like after work, and I just sat on the couch and read the first book in the series in one sitting. I stopped to get water and whatnot, but other than that, I finished the book in a day, which doesn't happen as often. I don't do that as often. Do I wish I could do it for all my books? Yes, but at the same time, I don't. And that the book happens to be Legendary by Stephanie Garber. This is book 2 in the Caraval series. I read Caraval in a day, and I loved it. So I'm super duper excited to read Legendary because finale comes out in May, and I'm not ready. So this is a great catch up for me because I read Caraval back in July, and then like Legendary came out, and I bought it, and it's been sitting on my TBR shelf for a while because then other books that I was reading that kind of took over my life. Thronogas. And the Mortal Instruments series, and the Infernal Devices series, and the Dark Artifice series. A lot of fantasy. So I'm excited to finally pick up Legendary and read this wonderful book before finale comes out. Those are all 12 books of my TBR for the month of April. It's going to be a lot. I have high hopes that I'll be able to read all 12 books. So it's like I'm making a good segue with my March TBR. I have 3 books left that I have to read. Sometimes if I finish my TBR for the month, I start the next month's TBR. So I might be able to do that. We'll see what happens. But thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I will definitely do another video which will show you my TBR for the Dewey's 24-hour readathon. Which I will also vlog. But that is my TBR for the month of April. So I will see you again soon. Happy reading!